So today we're going to be working on converting measurements. So maybe you need to go from inches to feet, or maybe even inches to centimeters, or gallons to quarts, all different kinds of things like that. Now, the setup is just like what we have been doing with the butterfly and cross multiplying, how I showed you how to put that in your calculator. And so hopefully you kind of catch on and it makes a lot of sense. So, our only vocabulary word, of course, is to convert. And I explain convert as change. We're changing it from one thing to another. So maybe we need to do seconds to minutes or minutes to seconds, maybe even seconds to milliseconds or something smaller. When you talk about the speed of light in science class at some point, these kinds of things might be very, very helpful. Now, the thing that we have on this page that kind of helps us understand is we have the US customary system. That's what we're usually used to. That's feet, inches, yards, gallons. That was a weird G, but that's kind of what we're used to hearing. And you've probably done some measurements and different things in those measurements. We have to convert from customary, US customary, to metric or metric to US customary. Now, metric is used in other countries, really everyone but us, and that's more like liters, millimeters. Oops, somehow I switched the screen. Let's see, what's another? Centimeters, decameters, liters, grams. There we go. That was the one I was trying to think of. Now, the story that I like to tell that kind of explains why we have US is, when the first people came to the United States or this continent and they wanted to, forge a free land, they wanted to break away from everything that was going on in Europe and the other countries. And so they even went so far as to come up with their own measuring system. I don't know if it's true, but maybe it helps us remember that there are two different kinds. Okay. Now, we've worked with ratios. And so this is kind of the same idea because we're comparing two things, feet to millimeters or yards to inches. We can compare those two things so we can think of them in the same way as we would ratios. So here is our target. It's underneath measurement conversions. And you can see that we need to be able to convert. Let me move myself. Oh, I just made myself big. That is not what I wanted to do. Oh, how do I get rid of that? There we go. Much better. Maybe even a little bit smaller. We have converting. There's three different ones, but really we want to work with length, mass, and capacity. So length would be like with a ruler, or metric would be like a yardstick or a metric stick. And then mass would mean how much do you weigh? So we weigh ourselves in pounds, but they weigh themselves in kilograms. And then capacity would be like volume, how much liquid is in this cup. We kind of use ounces or gallons, and they use liters. Okay, so we have to be able to convert between these three different kinds. We can kind of just go ahead and do it all at the same time. We don't have to worry about if we're doing length, mass, or capacity. The math is all the same. Now, a couple of things here. We're comparing two quantities and we're using multiplicative strategies. That means we have to multiply. Okay, kind of that scaling up idea. The conversion, now, the conversion estimate or the conversion rate is this right here. How many centimeters are in an inch? How many yards are in a meter? We're going to call these things conversion rate. Okay. It's a given thing. We don't typically have to memorize these because, to be honest, I don't always remember what they are. I look them up on Google. We got to love Google. Usually when they give you this kind of problem, they tell you what the conversion rate is, either at the end of the problem or somewhere in the problem itself. Okay. Now, the one thing that I want to show you though is this is not an exact exchange or conversion. This little symbol right in here, we see it right here. They're not equals. I don't know if you can see it, but here's our equal symbol. They kind of squiggle like this, and it means approximate. So that would be an awesome thing to go put in your glossary along with the word convert. So you can pause this video. Now, um, trying to think if we would what we would put this under. You could put it under equality, um, or actually, I would put it under approximate or approximately equal, and then I would put this symbol in my glossary. Okay, just so that you're familiar with it. Now, like I said, I'm not going to talk about each one of these. We will be using these conversion rates, these things that we see right here, when we get into the problems. Now, if you'll notice these last two, they have an equal sign because we can go in between. This is the US customary feet and inches. That's an even switch. Okay, it's exactly 12 inches in a foot. And this is metric, kilometers to meters. But if we go between changing measurements in the same system, then it's an exact switch. Okay. Otherwise, we're approximating it. Now, let's figure out how we do this. Okay. Now, we know that there's 12 inches in a foot. Once again, we call this a conversion rate. It's a rate, it's something that's happening that never changes. We can't change this. It's just the way it is. There's 12 inches in a foot. We want to write it like this fraction. And this is just like what we were doing earlier with our butterfly. Okay, so we thought about how to go from 80%, 80 over 100, instead of 80 over 100 for that percent, we're using the conversion rate in its place. Now, um, oops, that was just an example. Mrs. Canupp wrote down the wrong thing. They want us to just rewrite these. See, I should read the directions. The common conversion using the ratio language. So this example that they did for us, they want us to do it with 3 feet. So we would write it like a fraction equals 1 yard. And when I say set up the problem, this is what I would be talking about, okay? Because conversions compare to quantities that are measuring different units, conversion ratios can also be called conversion rates. That's just a little extra tidbit of information. Let's try another one. So once again, we're writing this in a ratio language. This is a common conversion, meaning, you know, this might be something, depending on what your job is, you would have to know this a lot. Now, what I want you to also remember is it's okay if you were to write 1 mile on top and the feet on the bottom. Okay, we'll dive into when you want to do what as we start working problems, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Now, this one is approximate, but we set it up the same exact way. Now, it would be helpful to be familiar with what these abbreviations, LB is pound, kg is kilogram. Okay, that's probably something that we could work on maybe in a booklet. Okay, 4 quarts equal 1 gallon. Now, there's one more. I'm going to have you do it by yourself. Okay, so pause and do that. Raise your hand and let me check it. I'm sure it'll be awesome. I'm going to keep moving. Now, we can look at, I know some of you don't like double number lines, but we can look at double number lines because we have rulers that remind us and kind of look like double number lines. For instance, this specific ruler on this side has US customary, and I can see the inches, right? The top part of it is metric, and I see centimeters. Okay, so if I were to say 1 inch and oh, here's a ruler. We'll just use that. If I have 1 inch, whoops, it was straight. And I kind of use the ruler here to draw a line. Okay, we can see that that's about 2.5 centimeters. Okay, reminds me of a double number line because I would have this double number line and I would have this double number line. And there's a relationship when I draw a line across. 1 inch is 2.5 centimeters. 2 inches would be roughly 5 centimeters. 3 would be about 7.5. So it looks very much like our double number line. Okay, let's see. Label the scales on a ruler. We're probably going to skip that, but we can use this like I just did to draw my lines. Kitty, get down, please. You don't need to be up there. To convert these. So I'm going to let you just draw those. Now this is slightly different because we have 1 centimeter. So you would put it right here and then estimate about how many inches is that. Now remember this right here, that is a 1/2 of an inch. Ooh, it doesn't like me to write with that ruler right there. But I wanted to show you that this line right here is about 1/2 of a inch. Okay, so do some estimating. Let me check that out. And as well as try these next few. Okay, now I want to get here. Okay, 12 gallons is how many liters? Okay, because this is where we get to our level 3.0. This is where we need to be. And so I have to figure out the relationship between gallons and liters. So I'm going to pop back up here to that conversion and see if it's there. And of course, it's not. I probably accidentally erased the conversion. And here I just said, oh, usually it's there. So let's go pop over here and say gallons, 2 liters. Okay, and it says 1 gallon is about 3.78 liters. So we'll use 3.8. 1 gallon is 3.8. 1 gallon is 3.8. See how I just looked that up? But for future reference, I'll make sure that I put that in the next problem, okay? They want to know how many liters that is, okay? It's 12 gallons. So do you notice here, I set this up just like we were, the gallons go across. So if I were to put the liters on top and the gallons on the bottom, that's okay. I just need to make sure that it's the same on the other side. And so we have the liters down here. Now this is where we do the butterfly. Okay, so 12 times 3.8 divided by, 1, that makes it easy, is your answer. Okay, so you can use a calculator, but I'm just going to quickly work this as I listen to my kitty be weird. So that's 456 liters. Let me write that a little bit better. 456 liters. Okay, just like we were doing. Ounces to pounds. Now, I think I know this one. Is it 16 ounces in a pound? I think it is. I better go check, though. Ounces to pounds. Let's do, what if I want 1 pound? Yes, it's 16 ounces. So 1 pound, LB, 16 ounces. And they give me the 240 ounces. So I'm putting that on the bottom. Okay, how many pounds is that? Well, I have to do that cross multiplication. And so 1 times 240. And then remember, I hit equals in my calculator. Then I'm going to divide by the other side. So that's going to be divided by 16. So let's go grab an online calculator. Actually, I could just put that down here. Calculator. Ta-da.